Hi, everybody. Welcome to NewsNite Akron for a very chilly Friday, January 21st. Great to have you along tonight. Should an Akron mom be in jail tonight? She was convicted of falsifying documents so her kids could go to a neighboring school district. We'll discuss it. Should Caleb Porter be coach for life after leading the Zips to a national championship? We'll talk with him. And should TMZ really have gone after Mayor Plisquelic? Those stories and more next on NewsNite. A lot of topics to get to this week and a lot of great discussion ahead, we hope. Great to have along Ed Esposito here this week from WAKR. And also great to welcome Stephanie Warsmith from the Akron Beacon Journal. Okay, guys, her name is Kelly Williams-Bolar. It's a name that she probably hoped none of us would ever hear, at least publicly around here. Now everybody knows who she is. You know, should she be in jail tonight? Let's just start with that, and we'll work our way backward to how this all played out.
Ladies first.
Well, I think that Ed and I are going to disagree on this. I'm absolutely shocked that this woman is in jail. You know, I understand that she, broke the law. She did something wrong. I thought all along that this seemed like more of a civil case, that they should try to seek restitution from her. But the bottom line is that she was a mom who was trying to get a good education for her kids. And there are a lot of other people that likely are doing the same thing that have not been prosecuted, that have, certainly have not ended up in jail. And, so why does she deserve, this severe of a punishment for this?
Ed?
I think that's a question actually that Sherry Bevan Walsh needs to answer. And the fact that the prosecutor who decided to go ahead with this case is not talking about it, refuses to comment on it, does a disservice to all of us, but it also does a disservice to the prosecutor's office to explain why this family, why not the couple of other dozen families who did this. Regarding the civil case, I think you can make an argument the fact that they ignored repeated bills after they were caught for this is a factor. This is not on the face of it a very simple case. It's complicated. Was she trying to do the right thing for her girls? Absolutely she was.
But should she be in jail?
Yes, because and we do disagree on this, and I think it's a tragic case. I think it's tragic because she was trying to do the right thing, but she did so many wrong things on the way to doing that. And what are the standards, and what do you get when you break the law? And this is why the big hole in this argument remains Sherry Bevan Walsh. And Prosecutor Walsh has been forthcoming on other issues. This is an issue that I'd personally like to see her take some leadership and talk to the newspaper, talk to radio, talk to television, explain just what made this case different. Enough to put it in front of a jury and enough to put it in front of Judge Cosgrove to the point where the judge decides that this mother deserves 10 days in jail, where this mother has put her entire career and future plans in jeopardy now because of felony convictions, and also has put her father in the position where next week he may very well be following his daughter to jail because of his involvement in this. This is not. It's nuanced. There are many layers to this story, but bottom line, why does she deserve to be in jail? Because you can't game the system. You shouldn't be allowed to game the system.
Well, I was there on Tuesday, and I was right there in the jury box when Judge Cosgrove weighed in on this decision, and it was a very difficult decision. She went through her reasons for it. She's known as a compassionate and fair judge. But her point was, if I send you to prison for 5 years, what have I accomplished? The state's going to pay $23,000 a year for you to sit in prison, and your kids are going to be without a mom. That doesn't do anything. But also, a jury of your peers has convicted you of 2 felonies, very serious charges. And to not hold you accountable with any prison time sends a message, she said, that anyone can go out there and rip off a school district for money, regardless of the intentions. So 10 days in jail, she really seemed to struggle with it, but she felt like, as I'm interpreting her comments, that it was the responsibility of the court to give a sentence that fit what the conviction was. The decision then comes down to, was the jury right to convict her? It seems like each piece of this built on the next. And the judge, for the first time I've seen in my time covering Summit County, put out her own press release before the week was out, trying to establish to people that, hey, the prosecutor had to bring this and a jury had to convict her.
Right.
This was not me, the judge, the court, going out there and dragging this woman in and saying, let's send her to prison. There were a lot of pieces involved here.
Well, I think it's fair to say that nobody feels good about this. I mean, you know, nobody feels good about justice being served in here. I mean, I don't think the Copley-Fairlawn school superintendent or school administration felt good about doing this. I don't think the prosecutor, you know, if the prosecutor felt good about it, we're not hearing about it. I think the fact that she didn't feel good about it is why she's not talking.
Yeah.
Judge Cosgrove clearly struggled with this, didn't like doing this. I can't see how any of the jury felt good about doing this. You're putting a young mother in jail for 10 days and having this huge impact on her career. I mean, you know, let's be fair about this. You know, the state of Ohio still needs to weigh in as to whether this is of a felonious enough level here that it merits her dismissal from employment in the Buchtel cluster with Akron Public Schools. I mean, that's what Akron schools are waiting for. Full disclosure, your wife is going to be a person who's going to have to make some of that decision in some part, whether to accept that or move forward. It's a tragic case all around, but it started with Kelly making the decision that to put these things in place. It started with her ignoring repeated bills from Copley-Fairlawn saying, hey, we caught you, here's what this cost. You know, you get to this point because you were breaking the rules. Is 10 days too much for doing that? I don't think so. There's an element in justice where where at some point someone has to say, here's the standard, here's the line you don't cross. If you cross this line, this is what could happen.
But I think there's a lot of questions here that still need to be answered. I agree with Ed that I don't understand why the prosecutor hasn't explained, you know, what happened with this case. You know, why weren't there less serious charges considered here as well? And then the whole question of, you know, other, you know, parents out there that we know who have done this. Why have they not been charged? It almost seems like she is being made the poster child for this larger issue. And what is sad about that is that this could literally destroy her life and her family's life.
Well, let me just playing devil's advocate to that. At what point do you reach where somebody has to be a poster child, where somebody has to be, you know, graphically speaking, the head on the pike on the outside of the village walls?
But why her?
That serves as a warning.
Why is she any different from the other parents that have done this? You know, motivated likely by the same desire to get a good education for their kids.
I mean, you know, you wouldn't do this because you want your kids to get a less than stellar education. You're doing it because you want to give your kids a leg up. You know, the overriding intent of why it was done is not the issue here. You know, everyone would agree. You know, you're doing this because you want your kids to get a great education. The issue is that you broke the law, you know you broke the law, and in Kelly's case, she's in a position of public trust in education. And she broke the law when it came down to programs in education. Is that fair for the rest of us? I mean, I would argue that, you know, I would argue that one of the considerations on why she becomes the poster child for this case is precisely because she's working in a field that benefits or is hurt by people who break this law.
One point of clarification is that it's been pretty much extrapolated by everybody, including the media, that she wanted to send her kids to a better school district. From everything I've read, what she said initially was she didn't like that her kids walked through a violent neighborhood to get to the school and back. She teaches in the Buchtel cluster. Her kids would have gone to the Buchtel cluster. I've never heard her say or read that she felt that the school wasn't good. It was simply the transportation method back and forth. Whereas her father in the Copley schools lives right by a bus stop. They spent a lot of time there, and being able to put her kids at the bus stop, and they could come home to that bus stop to Grandpa's house, which allowed her time then to catch up, as opposed to the kids walking through that violent neighborhood and getting there before her, seemed to be the reasons behind it. But I've heard talk radio and others talk about, well, and even TV, that it was a better school district, and I think we've all made kind of a leap there. I did talk, though, in depth with Brian Poe, the superintendent at the Copley schools, and he tried to explain to people this week that there really is a loss, that Copley is a guaranteed school district. They don't take open enrollment. So they get a set amount of money from the state. Because people have said, well, if the girls were going there, the state gave them money for each student, and that's not what happens. He explained it like, you know, you get so much money to feed your family, but 2 other kids come over and eat every day. Well, you don't get extra money for them. So there is a cost there between what it costs per pupil and how much they really add up to. And I don't think people see that there was a real cost here. There was a real reason Copley's fighting so hard.
I certainly understand that, but then, you look at what was the cost of prosecuting this mother, and was it worth it almost to the district to spend that money, taking her through this process to get whatever the thousands of dollars were. And I'm not to diminish that. I understand. I covered education for over 4 years for the Beacon, and I understand some about school funding. But at the same time, there were costs involved with bringing this case, and that is likely one of the reasons that they don't go after and prosecute every parent who they find has done this.
Yeah, I want to talk further about that now as we shift to newsnight.net.
For more NewsNight content, including extended discussions, full interviews, and the chance to speak your mind about the issues, join us online at newsnight.net.
University of Akron men's soccer team, #1, the national champions, honored this week with a big rally over at the University of Akron. Next morning, our Jody Miller sat down with head coach Caleb Porter to talk about the great players and how he's developed this team.
Is it hard for you to say goodbye to your players?
It is, but I'm excited for them. And last night it hit me that was the last time I was going to see 7 guys. They'll be back, of course. They're proud of the program and their time here, and they'll come back to watch games. But I feel like I feel like the parent letting their kid go on to college, because they're now moving on. And for some of those guys, it's playing professional soccer. For some of them, like Enrique Paez, who did not play a whole lot, who was a very valuable member of our team in the locker room and in terms of his leadership, he'll move on and have a career and a family. And, for me, that's why I do this. That's the most rewarding thing about what I do, is I'm helping to shape young men's lives. My mission is to build champions and pursue championships. A champion is much more than on the field. It's off the field, and it's in life. And, these guys are champions.
Well, talk about champions. I mean, these are young men who have tremendous academic skills also, correct?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people will focus on the soccer. And these guys, obviously, that speaks for itself. But in addition to that, they're truly student athletes. And I was proud of the fact that last semester we had a 3.37, which was the 8th highest GPA out of 204 Division I schools in the country. And then we followed it up this semester with, of course, the national championship. But they raised the bar in the classroom as well. We had a 3.52 team GPA average, with 20 of 24 players above a 3.0.
And you can watch Jody's extended edition of her interview with Caleb Porter on newsnight.net. Queen sang it best, "We are the champions." It's a big deal. I mean, it's
Well, you never heard that song in Akron before,
no,
right?
No, not at all. How important is this guy?
Or Northeast Ohio lately.
Or lately, right.
How important is this guy right now to keep the University of Akron in the national spotlight?
It's you look at rate of return. I mean, it's just what is Akron known now for except for tires, LeBron, and the University of Akron when it comes to the sports. I mean, is Tressel worth it to Ohio State for what he brings to the table for football? Is Thad Matta worth it to Ohio State? They're not #1 ranked right now. I mean, there are so many colleges and universities who give their eye teeth to have that, because the athletic programs are an identifier. God willing, wouldn't it be great to have that again in the football program? But you have it in the soccer program. The soccer program is nationally recognized. It is a leader among men, and it's a leader among men because of Caleb Porter. You got to give credit where it's due.
And soccer is a worldwide sport, and so that's one of the things that makes this so great for our area. So it's great that the university is able to keep them here, and hopefully they're going to continue to win. We can bemoan our Cavs and our Indians and our Browns, but we have our Zips.
Yeah. So. And we heard him talk there in Jody's interview about the GPA, the grade point averages of these students out there, and how well they're doing. How refreshing is that? Because a lot of the national programs in any sport don't boast that.
Well, and that tells you that they place academics at a high standard as well as athletics, and you hear in football programs often about the kids maybe not even finishing their degrees, and so this means that these fabulous athletes are also getting a really great education that's going to help them later in life, and they're setting really good examples as role models at the university.
You know, I mean, University of, you know, it's interesting looking at, you know, especially athletics right now. Cleveland has the Vikings right now. Cleveland State Vikings are 17-3 as we do this, and you know, there's a lot of talk and buzz about that there hasn't been before. But when you look at success stories in Akron, if you look over the last 10 years, what are the things that really stand out as to identifying or remaking Akron or being bedrock? You know, the university has always been a bedrock, but you know, never so much as it has been before. You know, there's a lot of talk this week when you know, the Board of Trustees of the University of Akron decided to follow through with their contractual obligation. Let's just make sure, you know, this wasn't just they pulled $25,000 out of a hat and they gave it to Luis Proenza and said, here you go. Right, they didn't pull it out of Zippy's pouch. They were contractually obligated to do that because Proenza met the benchmarks. The university met the benchmarks, and that was an agreement that they had in place. You know, here's a guy who's a college president who's not only remade the core campus, but is helping remake the city around that. When you look at the far-reaching implications of what the University of Akron means for University Park, I mean, we're going to see a different city 10 years from now because of the University of Akron. It's going to be a different city for the better. I mean, even looking at the comments on AkronNewsNow.com and Ohio.com, I mean, you see the normal comments, but I thought it was interesting, especially reading the ones on the Beacon site on Ohio.com. You know, people were clearly disturbed over the fact that, you know, you have these large bonuses or long-term contracts awarded employees, but they're couching it with, well, yeah, that's a lot of money to give when other people aren't getting money. But then again, you know, Proenza's done a great job. Porter's done an amazing job. We got to keep this guy here. What's the cost for keeping the guy here?
Right. I do think that there's concern, though, when with the university president's salaries, you know, getting so high. But at the same time, we were talking during our break about, you know, the amount of money that he is able to bring into the university. And I know Gordon Gee, he was the president when I was at Ohio State, and he is again now. And he's another example of a university president that is making a lot of money, but yet he's able to bring a lot of money in. So you have that, you know, push and pull. Wow, this is a lot of money, and you know, the universities could be taking hits with this upcoming state budget. But yet, at the same time, if he's able to leverage private dollars to the university, that's very valuable.
But looking at both of these men, Luis Proenza and Caleb Porter, and the success that they've had in a city like Akron, how are they not being wooed and stolen with bigger money and warmer climates elsewhere?
Well, I think they've had opportunities. I know there have been plenty of universities who come knocking on President Proenza's door. You know, maybe it's just not the right setup. Maybe he and his wife are happy here. I mean, you know, let's not rule out the fact you can live in Akron and be happy.
Yes,
it's good. There are challenges here. It's a great quality of life. Maybe this is just the right fit for him at this right time in his life, and he likes this opportunity. And the fact of the matter is, he's not here maintaining something; he's here building. And I mean, you know, when you talk to him, you look at the common traits between Porter and Proenza. You know, they're two guys I think that have a vision, and they want to build that. They want to turn that vision into something concrete. In Proenza's case, he can turn it into concrete because they're actually building stuff. In Caleb Porter's case, he wants to turn it into concrete because, you know, there would be no higher, he's basically coach for life. He's got to bring another national championship in. You look at what Tressel's done at Ohio State. Tressel hasn't won the national championship every year, but he's got a program that's respected. And, you know, I would say that the payoff to Ohio State because of its the football program pays for all the other athletics. I'm not saying soccer at the University of Akron is going to do that, but it puts the university on the map worldwide.
Yeah, and that campus, I don't think people are even surprised is the right word. If you go away from Akron for 10 years and come back and look at what's going on the campus, it's a wow factor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked at the changes that I've seen in the 13 years that I've lived in Akron. And, you know, just driving down Exchange Street and, you know, with the new dormitory and the new stadium and the huge parking garage that goes on for blocks and blocks, it seems. You know, there's been so many changes there. There's so many plans for other developments. You know, as Ed was mentioning, in the University Park area, and so a lot of good things, a lot of good changes, collaborations between the university and the city and the biomedical corridor, and so you know, it's definitely a positive.
One last thing, real quick. These are two individuals who have bought world-class to programs here at home. How do you not respect them, and how do you not do what you can reasonably do to keep them here? There's no reason why world-class has to mean that people build great institutions and then leave Akron. Goodyear is a testament to a company that is world-class that is still here in Akron.
World-class indeed. Thanks for being along with this part of our discussion.
On NewsNite.net, we cover a broader range of topics than we can on the air in 27 minutes. Be part of the conversation on our Facebook page and at NewsNite.net.
And you can watch a lot more about our broadcast on NewsNite.net and also see the blog about what goes on behind the scenes. Hey, did you look online this week? Mayor Plisquelic, of all people, on TMZ.
How you doing, Mayor Plisquelic? How you doing, Melvin? How you doing? As the mayor of Akron, Ohio, if LeBron James was supposed to have an opening for a restaurant, would you be there to cut the ribbon?
Would I what?
Would you be there to cut the ribbon?
If LeBron opened a restaurant in Akron?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely I would.
Okay.
Sure. He's still giving back to the community in many ways. He still talks about being from Akron, and Akron being his hometown, always will. So sure I would.
Okay, so he's welcome to open up a restaurant, a nightclub, or anything in Akron?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Have a good one here.
I was just outraged that he he wasn't the lead story above Lindsay Lohan.
Yes.
I can't understand that. You know, I mean, it was the mayor does not suffer us fools in the press well. And you know, the TMZ thing is it's candy. I mean, if you watch the show, the show is nothing but asking one or two questions. Usually it's asking celebrities when they're stumbling out of bars what their favorite color is. So yeah, I mean, it's not hardcore. It's fun. It's fun pop culture stuff. He handled it very well. I mean, he could. You know, I've seen him blow up when people ask him, you know, goofy questions like that. You know, personally, it was nice to see him smile. He looked like he was having a little bit of fun with it before he went and did something, and he understood it was just a piece of candy and go after it, and it was good for him.
Yes, he did. I thought he handled it well, and he seemed to enjoy, you know, the humor of what was going on. So, and the truth of the matter is that you know, he hasn't said whether he's running for re-election this year, but I think most people expect that he's going to, and so any press is good press.
Right.
Especially when it's national press here. Memo to TMZ. If you want a good Plisquelic soundbite, any Wednesday at 10:30 downtown.
Right.
Might have been a better question to ask him if he'd play Parcheesi with Don Robart or something like that.
Well, and I said they could have asked the same question to the Cleveland mayor because, you know, I think that perhaps there were harder feelings in some ways, although he likely would have said absolutely as well, because I think that large cities in Ohio will take any business that they can get at this point.
Well, and I mean, just on a serious note, Mayor Jackson was not as exercised or insane in the wake of the LeBron thing as everybody else was. I mean, he was tempered by that. So, but you know, the right person to ask was, you know, Mayor Plisquelic. I mean, I'm sorry he didn't get a plug-in for vegetarian. It would have been nice to have pointed out that Akron already has a celebrity restaurant.
They're very true.
You know, I've heard, you know, Jim Rome and others in the nation still talking about LeBron snubbing Akron and this and that. And it's almost like we live here, and I feel like the people of Akron have moved on and have gotten their lives back, but the nation still loves to bring up this scab every now and then.
Right, and there are still people who are very bitter about it. My brother, who's a huge Cavs fan, will never forgive, and you know, as a sports fan, will never watch the Heat. So you know, there are people like that. But then I think there are people in Akron, especially because this is where LeBron grew up, that say, you know, I don't like the way he left, but you know, good for him for, you know, doing what he needed to do for his career.
Still one of ours.
He's still one of ours.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you kind of bring up an interesting thing. I just, you know, Cleveland, like it or not, Cleveland's still a punchline. And this is, you know, I mean, you still hear about the river burning. You still hear about Dennis the Menace and the city going into default. I mean, you know, we live every day with sports teams that are just, you know, are horrendous and disappointing. You know, have moments of glory, but never quite get to the point where they're grabbing the ring. You know, it's still a compelling story. But you know, when you ask why does the national media do it, it's, you know, the truth of the matter is Cleveland's a punchline. You know, we may not like it, but that's just the way it is.
Well, it also hurts the fact that the Heat are doing so well and the Cavs are doing
The Heat have lost
so
3 in a row.
bad.
The Heat are doing well? I hadn't noticed. Oh.
Well, if the Cavs were doing well this season as well, I think it'd be a little easier to swallow.
You're not wishing
true.
bad karma on him, are you?
All right, bad karma, world class, the phrases that stick with us for this week. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next Friday right here for Newsnight. Good night.